Imagine waking up before the sun rises. Not to an alarm clock, not to a buzzing phone, but to the sound of waves. The deep, rhythmic crash of the ocean against the shore that your family has fished for 3 generations. The smell of salt in the air, the distant flicker of lanterns as fishermen dragged their nets into the dark water. Now imagine being a little girl in that village, burning with curiosity and being told in 100 quiet, painful ways that the world beyond those waves was not meant for you. This is where Aisha's story begins. Not in a boardroom, not in a university, not with a trust fund or a mentor or a lucky break. It begins with bare feet in the sand, a borrowed book, and a dream so stubborn it refused to die. This is Self a Billionaire, where we tell the stories of men and women who didn't wait for the world to give them a seat at the table. They built the table themselves. Aisha was born in a small coastal village in West Africa, the kind of place that doesn't appear on tourist maps. Population just over 2,000. Main industry, fishing. Main export, survival. Her father, Emmanuel, was one of the most respected fishermen in the village, not because he was wealthy, but because he understood the sea. He could read the tides like language. But understanding the ocean didn't pay school fees. It didn't buy medicine when her younger brother fell sick. It didn't stop the roof from leaking when the storms came. From the age of 7, Aisha rose before dawn to help her father on the boat. Her small hands learned to mend nets, to sort the catch, to navigate the currents. While other children slept, she was already working. But every evening, when the boats came in and the village settled into its quiet rhythm, Aisha would walk along the shoreline alone. She wasn't just watching the water, she was studying it. She noticed when the coral near the northern reef began to bleach and die. She saw how the fish population shifted with the seasons, how the plastic washing ashore was tangling in the mangroves.
This one is bleached.
She didn't have the
This one
words
is
for
still
it yet.
alive.
She didn't know terms like ecosystem collapse or biodiversity loss. But she felt it. The way you feel a sickness in someone you love. The ocean was hurting, and Aisha wanted to help it. Her family couldn't afford secondary school textbooks, so Aisha borrowed them from a neighbor, a retired school teacher named Mrs. Adama, who had a shelf full of science books she hadn't touched in years. Aisha read them all. She read about coral reefs and ocean currents. She read about Jacques Cousteau and Sylvia Earle. She read
Aisha.
until the pages held a faint imprint of her fingerprints. Then came the moment that changed everything. Her science teacher, Mr. Liu, noticed something
This is the
unusual
work
about
of
one
a
of Aisha's
scientist.
handwritten assignments, a detailed observation log she had kept for 6 months, tracking the health of the local reef. It was meticulous, methodical, passionate. He called her aside after class. "Aisha," he said quietly, "this is the work of a scientist." She didn't believe him, but he did. Mr. Liu began staying after school to give her extra lessons: chemistry, biology, environmental science. He helped her craft scholarship applications, rewriting them together at a wooden desk until the language matched the brilliance he saw in her. Application after application was rejected. Months passed. Aisha kept helping her father on the boat. She kept walking the shoreline. She kept believing. Then, one afternoon, a letter arrived. A small coastal university had awarded her a partial scholarship. It wasn't enough to cover everything. She would need to work part-time, live frugally, and send money home. But it was a door, and Aisha had spent her whole life learning how to push through doors. University was not the fairy tale she had imagined. It was isolating. Aisha arrived with second-hand clothes and a vocabulary built from borrowed books, surrounded by classmates who had grown up with tutors and laptops and summers abroad. Doubt followed her everywhere, into lecture halls, into dormitory hallways, into the quiet moments before sleep. But she had one thing most of her classmates didn't. She had seen the problem with her own eyes. She hadn't just read about dying coral reefs, she had touched them. That urgency drove her. She threw herself into her coursework, spending nights in the library analyzing water samples, volunteering for every field research opportunity she could find. She built relationships with professors, with visiting scientists, with anyone willing to teach her something new. And then, during her second year, an idea began to take shape. Aisha had watched her father and the other coastal village fishermen struggle for years, not because they were bad at what they did, but because they were disconnected. They caught beautiful, sustainably harvested fish and sold it for almost nothing to local middlemen. Meanwhile, global markets were hungry for exactly what these fishermen had: ethical, traceable, ocean-friendly seafood, and were willing to pay premium prices. What if she could connect them directly? Working nights in her tiny dorm room on a borrowed laptop, Aisha built a simple online platform, a digital marketplace linking small-scale, sustainable fishermen in coastal villages to conscious consumers and specialty importers around the world. She called it BlueChain. The first months were brutal. Technical glitches, fishermen who didn't trust technology, buyers who were skeptical of the supply chain. Aisha handled customer service, logistics, and marketing, sometimes in the same hour. She barely slept. But then, it started working. A restaurant in Copenhagen placed an order, then a sustainable seafood company in Japan, then a grocery chain in Canada. Within 18 months, the fishermen in Aisha's home village had more than 3 times their income. Other villages began asking to join the network. International conservation organizations started reaching out. BlueChain was no longer a startup. It was a movement. Today, Aisha leads an organization that operates across 14 countries, supports over 40,000 fishing families, and has helped protect more than 2 million acres of marine habitat. She has spoken at the United Nations. She has been named one of the world's most influential environmental entrepreneurs. But the number she is most proud of? The reef near her home village, the one she watched bleaching as a little girl, has recovered by 60%. She did that. Not governments, not billion-dollar foundations. A girl with bare feet and borrowed books and a dream she refused to surrender. Here is what Aisha's story teaches us. The world does not give you permission to be great. You have to claim it. She started with what she had: curiosity, observation, and relentless effort. And she built the rest one decision at a time. Real wealth is impact. It is the reef that comes back to life. It is the fisherman who can finally send his daughter to school. So what is the ocean in your story? That feeling is not a distraction. That is your direction. This is Self a Billionaire, and your story is just beginning.